Is weird, odd, strange, or just plain bizarre is really your cup of tea? Then the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast will give you that fix. Can't believe it? Well, listen for yourself as we deliver the strangest news you definitely won't find on CNN or Fox. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the GSMC Weird News Podcast, brought to you by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Staci.
I'm your co-host, Sarah.
And today we are joined by two new GSMC hosts, Heidi and Arienne. Say
Hello.
Hi.
So, Heidi and Arienne haven't been on Weird News, so just a forewarning, it lives up to its name. This news is odd.
It's weird.
Yeah. We are also weird, so it's all fitting. We fit in. Just let your weirdness fly. It's totally accepted here. That's what we're here for. So our first story today comes from Norway, which I feel I could hear someone making a joke, but I won't because I'm better than that. But so this is a competition in Norway called, I'm going to go with Dodsing. There's a slash through this O, and I don't speak Norwegian, so I'm not quite sure what that's supposed to be doing. But it's Dodsing, which translates to death diving. This is a death diving competition because
that's what they do. So
right.
Norway brought us the Firewood television reality show, which sounds, about as exciting as, well, firewood. And now death diving?
I mean, those are two opposite levels of excitement going on there. Yeah, so this is where competitors jump off a 10-meter platform in what is supposed to be their most creative pose possible, and they receive points for the quote-unquote coolest pose and cleanest splash. But because some of these poses are nowhere near proper diving poses, this often leads to belly flops and or going in through your head.
Not clean splashes at all from what I saw.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm super shocked. This is a 50-year-old sport. Like, why?
Oh, wow.
I knew you had swimming pools, but I didn't know you had, I assume it wasn't 10-meter diving boards then.
50 is surprising because I feel like this is just, made for social media.
Right? Or just made for, I kind of imagine it when I was watching the videos, this had to start with, the 70s and, those surfers who then became skateboarders. It's that sort of guise of people of, I don't care if I break a bone 20 times, it's fine.
50 years ago, I feel like they weren't diving off of diving boards and swimming pools. It was probably a cliff and an icy fjord or something.
Oh, well, that's much better.
They had Olympic pools and everything there too. Olympic style, that was a thing. It is. Yeah,
and in the video, though, the diving pool they're diving into is sort of roundish, which I am kind of jealous of because I've never seen that. But it means you, thankfully, then land sort of equally away from any edge of the pool. Right. Whereas if you were in a rectangle, the way some of these guys launch themselves off at an angle, I'd be like, please don't. Oh my gosh, please don't. But yeah, so even though this is 50 years old, this is only the 10th World Championship, in which I'm like, what were you doing for 40 years? What was the point of that if you didn't even have a championship? It was just...
Well, it's a world championship. Maybe they just had Norwegian championship. And now they're bringing it they've brought it to the world.
So maybe that's what it is, Heidi, is we had the internet and now we can bring it to the world.
Word has spread.
Go do this. If you've seen the videos for this, I had a hard time watching the video, and it wasn't even we're airing this as a competition. It was sort of clips put together of all the finalist dives or whatever. Mm-hmm. But there were so many just going in head first and not with my hands to brace me sort of endings that I was just okay, why?
Belly flop endings too.
Yes.
You felt it. It hurt.
Yes. And there were children in the audience and I'm just parents, what are you doing? Who brought their child to this event?
What not to do for them?
What are you encouraging?
So if it's a world championship, there must be rules. What are said rules?
I couldn't really find too many of the rules other than you do get sort of bonus points for, not even creativity, difficulty. So, for example, there were several that looked like Arienne said the same, but then there were some where they had their hats on, and so you got docked if while doing the dive your hat came off. And this feels a bit like, in gymnastics where it's like, oh, you can see your bra straps, so you get docked. But it's like, really? That's what you're focusing on? And this whole ridiculousness of that dive looked extremely painful and or dangerous.
I mean, it's the world championship.
Well, yeah, I guess you got to up your game there. Yeah, you got to keep the hat on at all costs. Like, get that, what is that spray stuff that beauty pageant people use to keep their bikini from riding up? It's like, get that. It's not hairspray. It's like some glue spray or whatever. I've seen Miss Congeniality too many times. Get that for your hat and hope you don't have a Matilda moment. So your hat stays on while doing ridiculous things. And there were evidently, the thing I said, said that it was both men and women, but I did not see the women's competition in the video. And I'm just like, okay, look, I get, 20-something guy doing it.
It did look mostly men. But then the way they were landing, it seemed like it would be very painful for women to land like that in water.
It looked like it would be very painful for anybody. Like, when I saw the thing that the thing was about cleanest splash, I was like, who came up with that rule? Nobody has a clean splash.
None of them
as
did.
much as you think of, like, if you watch Olympic diving, some of those splashes are, like, non-existent, whereas these are all, like, you purposefully, it would be better if you had like biggest splash as your grading criteria. That would be much better.
I'm just going to say it. I hope these guys are wearing a cup.
Oh,
no.
I'm sure. Really?
I don't. Well, and I love it because I don't speak Norwegian, but I was watching the video and it had the audio talking. And one guy was wearing a Speedo, which is even in Norwegian, Speedo. But then you could hear the announcers even doing my reaction of when the guy's,
right.
I'm like, you're announcing this as a sport. Why are you reacting that way? Like, I get why I am, but you've seen this, haven't you? Like, why are you so shocked?
Every painful jump is new.
Yeah, but no, most of the guys look to be wearing some regular version of swim trunks.
Yeah. It's painful either way. It seems like it would be.
Yeah.
Men, women, it doesn't matter. You'll have parts that's going to hurt.
Oh, you're going to be bruised? Yeah.
Well, and I saw one guy, the first one I saw, he launched himself off and did this sort of like proud Superman pose, but while turning in the air so that he landed almost in a perfect belly flop. And then you get the like slow-mo after shot and he's like all super pumped in the water, like, yeah, I did it. And I'm like, no, you've got to be in pain.
Right. How are you breathing after it would seem like it would knock the wind out of you?
It's like, is that the adrenaline talking right now? Because what are you doing, man? I'd be like, get me out of this pool. I can't even move. Like, and it's dangerous. I have seen people do diving competitions and land on their head and be like not fully conscious. So watching these people purposefully do that, I'm just like, why? And also, where's your medical team? Can I see like a video shot of your medical team? Because I'm super worried.
And I survived the Olympics where Greg Louganis hit his head on the diving board, and I'm traumatized by that. I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah.
This also reminds me of base jumping. Have you guys seen that? Yeah. Where it's like they have the wingsuits and they jump off of mountains. And they go with like GoPros and like Red Bull sponsors them and it looks terribly dangerous.
I feel like they're also trying to land safely. Because they're like, we don't want to get hurt.
But I mean, they take it to the last moment of how close can I get to the ground before I have to pull my parachute without dying.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas and I think again, this is partly because I thought of it as like the surfers who became skateboarders. When I was watching the death diving, I was like, I would much rather you, instead of going in a pool, can't you just land in like a tub of like that soft foamy thing that people do practice their flips on? Like when they're first learning it. It's like, that looks like it would be much less painful. Why does this have to be in a pool?
So it turns out there are strict rules.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. It's not a belly flop competition. It's called Dodsing, which kind of translates to deathing.
Oh, that's
the
better.
idea is that you spread out as you would for a belly flop, but tuck into a sort of folded-in half dive right before hitting the water. The contestants are scored based on style and how long they wait before tucking in.
Yeah, that I can see that, because watching it, it definitely did look like a number of guys waited as long as possible, which is why they went in on their heads. But then the spread out as much as possible criteria is very interesting, because some guys look like they were just doing strange, like, side up and down flips that I can't fully explain, but like their arms and legs are pulled into them so they can get a lot of rotation for the spins. They're not spread out quite that much.
The ones I watched, they were all basically the same technique, like flying.
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, I definitely did see at least two guys do the Superman pose, and at least two guys did the I don't even know what to call this other pose, but they all look painful. So it is possible if the idea is to spread out, you are kind of limited in what you can do. And
I feel like this competition is just to appear as risky as you possibly can, but then try to not belly flop at the end. Like, it just sounds you're trying to look as dangerous as you can.
I'm still reading, and in the 60s and beginning of the 70s, Oslo youth would hang out at the pool where this diving tower is, or a certain diving tower is, and the quote-unquote rebels would dare each other to do dodes to impress the girls.
Ah, that definitely sounds like how it started.
Yeah.
Impress women.
Yeah.
For sure.
This sounds like how a number of ridiculous sports start, where it's just like, you really had nothing better to do. Like, go be a good neighbor and do your elderly neighbor's chores, or go to the library, go do something else. Like, seriously.
But then you wonder if the ladies are sitting back watching, like, look how dumb they are. You know?
Right? Like, what lady was impressed by, he
No.
landed really hard. Oh, I want to go out with him.
No.
Like,
You probably
yeah.
can't have any more children, so no. Sorry.
A perk.
Yes, so we're going to take a short break. Stay tuned.
The average sedan is built with a steel frame and equipped with 6 airbags. Remember this the next time you see someone walking. Drivers, be aware. Pedestrians don't have armor. A message from the California Office of Traffic Safety. The average SUV has 2 blind spots, weighs between 4,000 and 6,000 pounds, and takes about 6 seconds to stop. Remember this the next time you're on foot. Pay attention, people. Pedestrians don't have armor. A message from the California Office of Traffic Safety.
Welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. Our second story, still, people doing things I cannot even imagine doing, but for a better cause, in that for an actual cause as opposed to trying to hit on a chick, which is that in British Columbia, in Canada, they are currently dealing with several severe wildfires. There's actually 11 currently burning, and they've burned over 3.3 million acres.
Oh, wow.
And we totally just had this past summer
Right.
with all the wildfires here in Northern California, and I was just like, I feel your pain. I quite feel your pain, except not quite like this, because the firefighters near Vanderhoof had their fire hose sucked up by a fire tornado, or a firenado. Which, when I first heard, I was like, that's not real. That's like Sharknado.
I was going to say, it sounds like the sequel to Sharknado.
We're just making up NATOs now. Sharknado, Birdnado, cat food NATO.
I'm not watching that one.
No, I don't want to see that either. But this is a real thing, and you can actually see video of this because one of the firefighters, I guess, was filming it. It looks like a cell phone video, but it might have been like dash cam. And you just see this hose just going up into the air like a tornado, like a really, really terrifying version of Wizard of Oz.
With smoke everywhere and everything. It looked scary.
Yes.
Yeah, this sounds horrifying. Like, tornadoes are scary. And then you have a wild hose, which I'd imagine when it's in a tornado kind of reminds you of like a snake on fire.
Okay.
And then it's in the sky, and then you're trying to do something helpful, and then all of your hopes are just gone.
Yes.
It's completely unpredictable.
Well, and you see them trying to like pull this hose back. So when I first saw it, I thought it was actually kind of funny because it looks almost like a cartoon where they're, doing tug of war against something that of course they're going to lose terribly in. But this hose actually got sucked up into the tornado and melted. And this took place over like 45 minutes, which I'm just like, I don't want there to be such a thing as a firenado, but one that I have to be anywhere near for 45 minutes watching my fire hose get melted. I need to go see a therapist.
It's actually more common than you would think. I mean, if you picture a very large fire, there's a lot of different air currents, and there's a lot of science that I can't explain. But both my father and my brother were volunteer firefighters for a very long time, and so you have to be very careful with backdrafts and drafts of any kind because it can. Things can have unexpected consequences. So if you think of a dust devil, well, it's kind of the same thing where, things just start to swirl. In this case, it just happens to have fire involved, which is horrible.
Well, and here's the thing. There are actually those, and those are very common in fires. But a firenado is bigger because it actually reaches up to the clouds. And there's something about cumulus and some other type of cumulus clouds that are also scientific words that I don't understand either. But it's essentially, this is a tornado with fire from the ground to the clouds. There was one during the car fire this past summer. Scientists don't quite fully understand why that's the case and how that happened, but a firenado itself is not as common as like a fire devil. A fire devil, sure.
I was surprised they fought it for that long. I mean, without knowing the direction it was going, I'd be like, you know what, you can have it. I'm not gonna fight you for that. Keep the hose.
Well, I'm kind of wondering, like, how chill are the firefighters in Canada, because they're wearing what looks like not regular fire gear to me. It's like, are you the volunteer fire crew? Because they're wearing what looks to be like
army pants almost,
sweatshirts, and then they've got the thing, but not like the full, you know, gear with the reflective gear.
They're wearing pretty standard hotshot crew.
Oh, is it
gear?
It's different for wildfires than like the building on fire? Okay.
Well, in Canada, we know they're really polite, so they're probably just like really nice about it.
That's why the fire Nada got the hose. It was like,
yeah, they just let him have it.
No, you have it. No, I insist. No, you.
Yeah, exactly.
Except this one, clearly, I think they were a little tired of being polite, because I saw a thing with that said they'd been fighting this for at least a week with 16 hours a day.
Oh, no. And
you see in the video at one point, after the hose has been completely sucked up, one of the firefighters throws, I'm not even sure what it is, a rock or something at the firenado. Like, he's very upset.
Fine.
I feel like a firenado would just like take the rock and just like throw it back.
Right?
Right.
Well, and the firenado had been pelting them with burning logs while they were trying to keep it from stealing their hose. So I was like, that is just like the personification of all things I don't want to mess with right
it's
there.
a retaliation, the rock.
Right, the rock versus the melted hose and the fire logs. You won on that one, definitely.
That's our next NATO movie. It'll have the rock in it.
There you go.
Wow, nice one. But yeah, no, I am terrified about this. And scientists think, along with not being able to explain it, the fact that just large fires in general, but perhaps firenados are also becoming more common, is sort of terrifying, because it's just like, nope, not allowed, nope. Like, I'm now picturing the personification of the tornado from the Disney Hercules film, but with fire. So it's just like, it's mad at me, and it's going to burn down everything as it chases me through wherever, specifically me, it sees me, it's hunting me down.
Right. And then how do you fight that, too, if they're just sucking up the hoses, too? It's
right?
Like,
Oh my God,
there's no fight here.
It's like, oh, you think you're going to fight it with the hose? Ha.
Right.
Oh, you think you're going to fight it with the bucket? I'll take that too.
I'll show you.
And this is actually, the video of this is amazing, because they do get a shot at the bottom where you do see the flames actually being part of this tornado, and that looks almost not real. Like, I thought it was one of like those sort of lightning globes you had where you could touch it and it followed your fingers. Like that, but flames. It looked like just a toy or something. But the fact that that is a real fire, it's just terrifying to me. It's just like, what do you do here?
And it's crazy because, like, regular tornadoes, you can't really see the bottom, but you see this just burning everything it's touching right at the bottom. It's like, wow, okay, you're doing damage. Why fight you?
I mean, technically, maybe no escape, so I have to do something.
I just let you do your thing.
Right? Be like,
I'll fix the aftermath.
I'm insured, right? Good. This is not insurance fraud if I just, like, surrender.
Right.
That's like trying to say to your teacher, like, oh, the firenado ate my house. Like, I
Right?
need some money for it. I know it's not believable, but it happened.
And explain that to your insurance
Yeah.
company, too. They're just like, it was a fire and it was a tornado. They're like, really? Pick one.
And they'd be like,
Okay.
it took the hose.
Right.
The firenado ate my she shed. What? No one else went there? Because I immediately went there.
I did not go there.
Yeah, no, I don't. How do you? Yeah, I mean, technically, you have proof that firenados are a thing because this is on video, and scientists do agree these exist, even if we can't explain it. But
And firenado is now a hashtag, so obviously, you know,
it must be real.
it's real in
the internet
world.
made it a thing now.
Yeah.
I am actually super shocked that this is not yet a movie, though. Like, even before we knew firenados were real, aren't those just like two of the worst natural disasters? Wouldn't you just automatically put that in a movie in the same way you put like every natural disaster in like 2012 or something? Which is like, just put those together and add in an earthquake just because.
Oh, yeah. Well, if they're becoming more common, it might be. And then it gets near the ocean, and then it gets the sharks, and then you have spitting out flaming sharks, and
Oh, yes.
it just doubles down.
This is my favorite tweet. They need one more Sharknado movie now. Sharknado, Flaming Fins of Fury.
oh, man. That'd be good.
I mean, the fact that Sharknado is a thing in movies, at least, there's not like a real Sharknado, right? I hope not. That would be possibly.
I mean, fish
more
do
terrifying.
get sucked up and then
do.
dropped, but
Oh, they
not
do.
usually like massive tons of sharks.
No.
And now I'm putting like Sharknado and Firenado and the Meg together, so you have a giant flaming shark being thrown in the air.
It's the multiple NATO.
It's just all the possible worst things I can imagine in this swirling doom of something. Gosh, that's very strange. But I really do feel for the firefighters in British Columbia because 16-hour days, 7 days in a row, like minimum. I'm just like, I mean, I guess you can't be like, I'm taking a day off from the fire. Firenado, see you later. Like,
Oh, it ate my house. Well, can't go back.
it took my hose, so I need a day off to decompress.
And you wonder how their health is going to be after all that smoke inhalation and dust and dirt and all that, too.
Or even, I remember reading, and I don't remember which fire it was now because this has just become so the norm for me. Every summer in California, there's a giant fire somewhere. But after one fire, I think it was some celebrity offered the firefighters like massages. And it wasn't even the fire was done. It was just like you ended your, 16-hour shift or whatever. And obviously that's very stressful.
Right.
So here's a massage. And I'm like, that is a great thing to do. But also, how long did that have to go on for?
Did you say a celebrity offered massages?
Like, not that they offered to give
okay,
them. They
because I just thought that there was like, like Robert Downey Jr. offering massages.
Okay.
I would actually kind of pay to see Robert Downey Jr. offer firefighters massages.
I feel like he would.
I feel like he would, and I feel like a number of them would accept to be like, yeah, by all means, come on.
He would get the whole Avengers crew to help.
Right? I was like, Iron Man, can you give me a massage? Heck yes.
I want the Thor massage.
Right.
I'll take the Captain America one, just because Chris Evans. Like, love him.
My brother-in-law works at Applebee's, and they did a promotion for all the firefighters that were fighting this year for free dinner or lunch or whatever they were. So they just came in and got to eat for free just to help them out because there were so many.
Yeah, I know Guy Fieri does like cook-offs for firefighters. He like goes to, I guess, wherever the fire is and does like barbecue and everything for all of them to make sure the crew gets fed.
Oh, that's nice, because they definitely go through some things with these giant fires that just seem impossible to fight.
Oh, yeah.
And you hear about them for weeks and weeks and however many millions of acres, and then you'll hear like, oh, it's 15% contained. I'm like, 15%? It's only 15%, and they've been fighting how long? Like, are you kidding? So, yeah, definitely hearts go out to the firefighters, whether or not they're fighting firenadoes. Hope that none of them ever have to fight a firenado again, because at that point, guys, I'm sorry, you lost. Just throw in the fire hose or whatever. Just
throw in the hose.
Yes.
Give them the truck as a bonus.
So we're going to take another short break. Stay tuned.
The average sedan is built with a steel frame and equipped with 6 airbags. Remember this the next time you see someone walking. Drivers, be aware. Pedestrians don't have armor. A message from the California Office of Traffic Safety. The average SUV has 2 blind spots, weighs between 4,000 and 6,000 pounds, and takes about 6 seconds to stop. Remember this the next time you're on foot. Pay attention, people. Pedestrians don't have armor. A message from the California Office of Traffic Safety.
Welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. Our next story has to do with fires, but thankfully not a firenado or any fire killing anyone. In that, in Washington, D.C., last summer in a condo building, a rat pulled the fire alarm.
Was there a fire?
There was not a fire, thankfully. Although I'm sure the condo people probably thought there was for a while.
I'm just thinking if you could train a rat to pull the fire alarm.
It looked like he was trained to do that. He did it intentionally.
I thought he was like trying to get to something higher, but I couldn't quite figure out where he was trying to go, because he clearly jumps onto the fire alarm and then the weight of the rat pulls down the handle. But I'm just like, where are you trying to go? Because the only place, higher than that is like the little thing that swings the door in and out. I'm just like, where are you aiming at, man? But yeah, I love the fact that this happened and that they caught it on film, because otherwise people would be like, who pulled that fire alarm? Who's that punk? And they'd be like, it's a rat. I'd be like, no, it's not. And then you bring out the film, it's like, oh my gosh, it is a rat. But evidently, Washington, D.C. has a major rat problem.
Ew.
Like, major rat problem, which I did not know, because, this is our nation's capital, and you think of, okay, it's Washington, and you got the White House and politics and all that.
Major rat problem.
It's just nice at the White House.
Yeah, I try to stay away from that metaphor. But yeah, no, a major actual Norwegian rat problem. The animal. Well, see, I'm trying to not give a metaphor sense, but
Doesn't this sound like it should be a Disney movie? You know, I mean, they made Ratatouille. Why not now?
Right?
There's got to be a story around a
Just
rat.
firefighter rat.
Yeah.
I'm sure, or it'd be Ratatouille pulling the fire alarm to escape that one chef guy who was onto him and wanted to prove it was the rat, and so he had to escape somehow. I can just see that in the film. I don't think it actually happened, but I can just see it happening in that whole animation style. But yeah, this I love more so than anything else how just sort of like, whatever people were in response to this. Because my first thought would be like, I need to get the heck out of that condo building, and that rat's too intelligent, and it's a rat, and it's giant, and there's all sorts of problems going on with the rat being able to pull a fire alarm.
Right.
But they're so used to it, it was just like lots of jokes about condo rat letting in pizza rat. And I had forgotten about pizza rat. I had to think about it for a moment. Pizza rat was a video of a rat, I think in New York, actually just carrying a full slice of pizza down the street, as you do when you're in New York, and nobody could stop that pizza rat. So condo rat's got to have his friends in too, and if he can't get to the main doorknob, how else is he going to let him in, I guess? I don't know.
Somebody will open it for me, pull the fire alarm.
This feels like sort of shady. It's like, oh, I got to go to the back door and open the emergency exit to let in my rat dealer friend or something.
Your pizza dealer?
My pizza dealer. Yes, I definitely got to have my pizza. Got to have that fixed.
The way the rat went about it, though, was funny because it looked like he had total motive. Like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to get y'all to run out this building. Like, he had a purpose that day.
I mean, yeah, he definitely does seem to have a purpose, and there is a sort of paddle handle to also open the fire alarm. And I kind of imagine if he had managed to have something at that height to run at it, he would have run like full speed at it to push that handle to open that door. It's like, I am getting this specific door open because...
And if you haven't seen the video, there is actually like a railing kind of thing. There's a bar that the rat jumps on first, and then so he has a shorter distance to jump onto the... So it does seem like he's trying to get somewhere.
Yes. But yeah, rats amazingly can chew through like metal garbage pails, and supposedly the wires in cars are tasty to them, which is why that's always a problem. And the federal government actually helped fund a war on rats in the late 1960s and early 1970s.
Didn't work.
Which, I mean, technically
not.
when you do war on non-country, those never seem to work. But it's just like, a war on rats from the government? What? Can we also have like a war on mosquitoes? Because I desperately would totally support that one.
This just feels terrifying, though, to think that there's a war on rats. Like, what else are the rats doing?
Well,
like, if they're
we
taking
lost the war on
pizza, yeah, we lost the war, so clearly they're good at fighting us. They're taking pizza, they're doing fire alarms. What else are the rats controlling?
They've clearly evolved.
Well, looking this up, I learned way more statistics than I ever wanted to know about rats, including how frequently they copulate, to the point that something like a male rat will copulate with 20 female rats in a day and could have some thousand number of offspring in like that same period.
There's a war. That's so many rats.
And rats can, they can, female rats can get pregnant at a very, very young age. So like a couple of weeks, and then their gestation period isn't very long. And so they can have, I don't know if it's a litter or what you would call it, but they can have just multiple. And then all those rats are getting their swerve on, and they're having litters, and it's just...
And then they can become pregnant within a day after giving birth. And it's just like this, obviously this is why we lost the war. We are just super outnumbered. There's no way to overcome
We shouldn't have had a war. We should have started handing out little tiny rat condoms.
Right. There should just be like a female rats like liberation movement. I mean, that just doesn't seem fair.
Or like go get Pied Piper from whatever country he was from, and just be like, okay, you know what? Take the rats, and please also don't take our children.
I was going to say, we're going to have to pay him.
But then to go to slightly less terrifying rodents, I thought this was really cute, but also the image of it terrified me at first. In that baby squirrels were rescued from what is called a Squirrel King. And this evidently comes from a rat king because it is known to happen with rats where their tails became entangled.
I've heard of that. Although Squirrel King, I was picturing from this headline like some diabolical guy with baby squirrels, and like, I don't know, he's going to sell them on the black market or something. But thankfully, it wasn't that kind of Squirrel King.
Wow, Sarah's mind goes so many interesting places.
I pictured a squirrel as a king. Yeah, just like training baby rats.
I just spit at Heidi.
all the terrifying things going on in my head now because of what you think rodents can do. I like to think
so
they're just, they're just out there and they want to eat and evidently copulate a lot and then eat some more and know that, evil plans to overthrow the humans are happening. But you guys are just killing my thoughts there.
All right, Stacy, you've heard the story, but I have to share because it's baby squirrels. And my father-in-law rescued 2 baby squirrels, and he was cutting down a tree, and the squirrels fell out of their nest, and so he rescued them. And my favorite part of the story is what he named them. Everyone I tell this story to says, "Oh, Chip and Dale?"
Right.
No, he named them Icky and Bicky.
Because, as you do, you don't want to be Chip and Dale. That's so...
You had to be original.
Yeah, Icky and Bicky, the squirrel babies.
Did you guys keep them, as pets?
They didn't make it.
Aww. Well, hopefully these will. They were found by a passerby and brought to the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center at the Wisconsin Humane Society in Milwaukee. And it took them, I think, about 45 minutes. They had to
Anesthetize?
Thank you, Sarah.
Not a problem.
That's what she's here for. They had to the squirrels so that they wouldn't, freak out because they were already sort of freaking out because it's like, hey, I can't get away from my brother and I'm really sick of him right now. And then they had a hard time at first telling whose tail was who. And they didn't want to, obviously nip somebody's tail, or they were worried about blood flow with the tails as well. So they took about 45 minutes and they did manage to separate them. Although some of them have bushier tails than others, and I could just see that being a problem with sibling jealousy down the line. Like, if it wasn't for the way we had that Squirrel King, I would have had the bushiest tail. I was firstborn. I deserved it. But yeah, so they will be held at the center for a few days to make sure that, there are no long-term damage and they're all doing well. But just my first thought when I saw that of, 5 squirrels tied together by their tails would have been like, is this some sort of strange apocalypse?
Right. How does that happen?
It's like, that's not natural.
They're all snuggly wuggly and they and then the things just tangle.
Yeah, and it also comes from the material that their nest is made out of that helps tangle it as well. But my first thought would have been like, that is a strange mutant squirrel, and I'm going nowhere near it. I don't know what it's going to do.
Terrifying to find. That's like just a wriggly nest. That'd be awful.
It's got to be terrifying for the squirrel too. Like you
Right.
go to sleep with your little brothers and sisters, you wake up and you can't get away, and you're trying to all run in different directions.
I'm not thinking about the squirrel. I'm just thinking about myself.
Right.
Scary run.
Be like, I might call it in and be like, there's a mutant squirrel in the park. I don't know if it's still there. I ran away as fast as possible.
Right.
So that
I'm
it would
at
not
home,
bite me.
so
Call for help.
It was in this area, and you can go. And if you do find it and get rid of it, please put out a public bulletin so that I know I can actually leave my house
And go back to the park.
Yes. But thankfully, this story does seem to have ended pretty well, and hopefully all the squirrels do survive, even if some of them will have less hairy tails than others.
Oh.
So on that note, we're going to end for today. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Weird News Podcast.